Hi, today we're going to make a goblet, and we're going to use two pieces. One piece to make the stem, the other to make the basin for it. This goblet was thrown and then altered when it was in the leather hard stage, and these little facets were put in. That kind of looks like Kermit the Frog's neck right there. So, it doesn't take a lot of clay. We're using about 3/4 of a pound, these two pieces, and I'll pull the stem part first. I'm just going to throw it on a bath here that's been stuck. So centering it, and when it's small like this, there's a couple techniques. You can't always get your hand on it, so what I'm going to do is just push, use a fraction of my hand to cup it. I can also use the sponge to get in there, push down. I think I got a pretty good center. With that, open it up, thumbs on top, hands on the side. We're going to open it all the way to the wheel head. If you notice, this has an opening all the way to the basin. So we're open all the way to the blue of the bat here. We're going to pinch it out. And so we're about this big on the diameter on the inside. And now I'm going to leave a little ledge of clay as I pinch out the rest of the way. That ledge is only about 1/4 inch. So in cross section it looks like this on the inside. Next step, pulling it up. And as I do this, I'm pushing towards the middle of the piece. So I want to maintain that Eiffel Tower shape. If it doesn't do that, I can always collar it in to keep that shape. A little slip, a little undercut. So that ledge that's on the inside, that allows my inside fingers to be slightly higher, just like it was on a regular pot. And so by doing that, it offsets, so I can create side pressure and top pressure to throw accurately. Bring that up. Do one more pull, and then we'll do some shaping on this. Here's my undercut. Okay, next up, we've got our cylinder form that's kind of tapered. We're going to take it and add some features to it. And so, putting a little bead on the top to hold this all together. And now, I'm going to choose a place where I want to constrict it. I'm going to go for kind of a rule of thirds, where 2/3 down here, 1/3 up there. Start my constriction. Bring this in. Take the rib and flare out the bottom of the goblet. Take the sponge, we're putting a little bead on the base and just using my finger catch a little glazed basin right there and round that edge off with the sponge. Next step, I'm going to add a little touch to where it widens out here. And again, I'll take the rib. I can flatten that out, or I can make it rounded. Lots of different shaping techniques. I'm going to take that and just use my finger to sort of trim it like a lathe tool. And put a design in that. And now it's coming back out. And I'm just looking at proportion that the width of this and the width of that are similar. And then I'm kind of maintaining some harmony and balancing out different elements on it. And so, just like I have that bead there, I'm going to go ahead and put this bead right on the underside of that. And I think that does it. Okay, so that is the bottom to the goblet. A little bit about the proportions. So the basin that goes on top of this shouldn't be any more than basically this should be 2/3 or the same width as the basin. So I don't want to put something that's really large on here or it'll tip over. And so I try to maintain that 2/3 width on the top part. So we can take calipers or we can just visually compare those. We're going to throw the basin part, the actual cup part, to the goblet. And again, a small piece of clay. And what we're doing is we're looking at the inside form. We're going to have a form that is thrown, but unlike a bowl where we trim a foot on it, we're going to round it off so it matches the curve of the inside of the pot. And so that's going to mold together better on top of our stem. So we've got it opened up. Now I'm going to pull it out like I would a normal bowl, just following that continuous curve to open with a nice bead. And that bead will pull off into a nice drinking edge to it. And that is an edge that kind of comes up and then tapers a little bit. So we have slip and undercut, and we'll begin pulling. Undercut. And so this is really an aesthetic and volume, form and function question at this point, how you want to use this. If it's going to hold liquids, if it's going to be a goblet for dessert, is it more bowl-like than drinking-like? And so you have to decide how you want that to be portrayed and how you want to display what's going to be used in it. So my third pull is more to add the volume to this. And now I'll come in and clean up the edges. So I'm going to use this rib. I've got a nice smooth curve on the inside of my form. And now I'm going to finish the outside. And I'll just take this rib and smooth those throw lines. And I'm pressing on the inside wall as I do this. And now I'll soften this. I don't want to use a sponge and bring up grains. I'm just using the webbing of my finger. I could take a chamois, paper towel, or a piece of leather, wet leather over the top, but my finger webbing works pretty good. Okay, so this gets cut, and as I mentioned, the bottom of this is going to be trimmed in a rounded form. That rounded form is going to fit the contour of this here, and we'll use slip on whichever piece is more firm and scratch it, and we'll place that in there. I like to put the slip on this piece and scratch on this piece, and I can rotate the basin on there. As I mentioned, this width should either be equal but no less than about 2/3 of the width of that, so it balances together. That helps visually to see what's going to happen.